Mr. Derrick, go.
Mr. Speaker, sir, against the backdrop of debt collection harassment as a cause for concern, this debt collection bill is apt and timely. I would first like to commend how MHA has considered debt collection to be a legitimate activity that facilitates the fulfillment of financial obligations. The proposed regulatory framework, in my opinion, achieves a fair balance between stemming undesirable conduct and avoiding being overly burdensome for the debt collection industry. It is on this premise that I have some comments and clarifications. First, I welcome the class licensing regime set out in Clause 14 of this bill, which minimizes the regulatory conditions on lower risk groups. However, the group of businesses under the class licensing regime is a very large category, with organizations which vary in terms of their sophistication and debt collection processes. This category includes banks or credit card companies at one end and money lenders or the smaller outfits on the other. Given that money lenders are generally less sophisticated with fewer resources than banks, which are highly regulated, will MHA consider differentiating the class licenses, for example, between the institutions that are MAS regulated versus those that are not, so that licensing conditions are appropriate to the risk profile of the two groups? Next, as part of the approval regime under Clause 20 of this bill, prospective debt collectors for licensed debt collection companies will have to undergo a fit and proper assessment by the police. While criminal records are a relevant factor, it is also a vital information for the debarment tenure to be well calibrated. This is so it will be consistent with the principle that all ex-offenders deserve a second chance, as championed by the Yellow Ribbon Singapore, and as well as members in this House. Referencing the security industry, I've engaged with my residents at the Meet the People sessions who were keen to be security officers but were repeatedly rejected by SPF in their application for a license. One claimed to have had a dated conviction of 15 years ago and has since stayed crime-free and have been proactive in equipping himself with the relevant skills but still was not successful in getting a license. Therefore, can Minister clarify whether ex-offenders who have turned over a new leaf will be given a chance to work as security officers, and specifically to this bill as debt collectors in this new regime? If so, can Minister be clear on the parameters of what turning over a new leaf means that they can be reconsidered to work in such jobs? Moving on, in recognizing that debt collection is a legitimate activity, I'm also concerned that some debtors can make malicious or frivolous complaints against well-behaved debt collectors to frustrate the debt collection process. However, the truth of each complaint can only be established after investigations, which draws on police resources and potentially allow the debtor to delay the fulfillment of his or her financial obligations. Can Minister share if there would be further safeguards against such complaints, in addition to levers in the penal code relating to the provision of false information, to be fair to debt collection companies or collectors who conduct themselves well? And in this case, as MOS had earlier mentioned also, that complaints against debt collection companies will also be taken into account in the measurement of their behavior. Lastly, as communications and collection strategies shift to the digital realm, can Minister explain if the bill will regulate undesirable debt collection activities conducted on online platforms, such as through messaging or social media? Also, what are other levers available to counter online harassment by debt collectors to ensure that such digital means will not be exploited as a regulatory gap for harassment of debtors? Sir, in conclusion, I believe the regulatory framework introduced by this bill will better address the law and order concerns, protect the general public, as well as to professionalize the debt collection industry in the long run. I support this bill. Thank you.